Sox came to Cleveland red hot, but now they're just red. After the Indians took Game 1 of this series behind a masterful performance by Justin Masterson. Tribe starters have been brilliant on the homestand, and TJ House has a chance to make it 5 straight strong outings next on Sports Time Ohio. Another warm night in downtown Cleveland as the Indians look to stay hot against the Boston Red Sox. It's Game 2 of their 3-game series. Hi again, everyone. Matt Underwood alongside Rick Manning. Tribe beat Boston last night, and in the process, Justin Masterson pitched a gem of a ball game. And at one point, Rick, he struck out the side on 9 pitches. And according to Indians research, it's the first time a Cleveland pitcher has ever done that, and that was only part of the story of Masterson last night.
Yeah, he threw 25 consecutive strikes, but on this homestand, the pitchers started it out by Corey Kluber striking out a bunch of Colorado Rockies. Now, this was a team that never struck out a lot, but what they did, they followed suit. They got ahead in the count, they threw some great breaking balls, and they hit great locations. They had a lot of swings and misses. So the rotation is starting to pick it up, and I mean, they're starting to win. They're scoring 6 runs, especially when they're at home. Now it's going to be TJ House's chance to join that rotation. He will pitch tonight, his 3rd Major League start, his first against the Red Sox. He will be matched up against Jake Peavy in his last 5 starts against the Indians. He's 4-0, but he only has 3 decisions this year.
Well, the Indians have been here before. This is the 6th time in the last month they've been within 2 games of the 500 mark. And all 5 previous times they've lost that next game. Hopefully TJ House and company will change that story tonight here at Progressive Field. It's the Indians and the Red Sox, and the play-by-play is next. Back here at Progressive Field on a beautiful night in downtown Cleveland. Our game time temperature is going to be 73 degrees. We're waiting for our first pitch tonight. We got to wait a couple of minutes, not quite ready for action. Let's take a look at the Indians starting lineup. It's brought to you by Progressive. Terry Francona is going to run out this starting 9 tonight. It'll be Michael Bourne, followed by Asdrubal Cabrera, and then Michael Brantley. Let's go to the Red Sox starting lineup. Brock Holt, Xander Bogaerts, Dustin Pedroia. Then it's Ortiz, Gomes, and Pierzynski. Alex Hassan, Jackie Bradley Jr., and Jonathan Herrera will round it out.
And our GMC starting pitcher, TJ House, who wants to get started early. He's standing around at 7:03. The umpire said, hey, this game starts at 7:05. He is making his 3rd start. He is 0-1, a 4.05 ERA, has never pitched against the Red Sox. Coming off a darn good start against the Chicago White Sox. Fanned a career-high 8 batters. He threw 69% strikes in that ball game, and he was 16 first pitch strikes to the 24 batters that he faced. So if he can stay aggressive, he has been throwing a lot of strikes in his first couple of starts.
Brock Holt stands in. We're ready to go now. TJ House rocks and winds, deals, and a first pitch strike. Brock Holt went 1 for 4 last night, scored a run. Our game time temperature is 73 degrees. Ideal conditions here at the ball yard tonight. One is in the left field, a base hit. Holt with a nice inside-out approach gets aboard to start the game for Boston.
Well, this kid's done a great job, man, leading off for the Red Sox since being there. Let's check out the key of defense for the Indians. Brantley is in left field. Bourne is in center on Michael Bourne bobblehead night. It'll be Murphy over and right. Avila is at third, Cabrera at short. Kipnis is at second, Chisenhall first with Gomes behind the plate.
Crew chief Jerry Davis calling the balls and strikes. Quinn Walcott, Greg Gibson, Phil Cuzzy are the base umpires. Xander Bogaerts takes a strike. He provided all of the offense for Boston last night and went 2 for 4 with a 2-run homer. Young man who had been the Red Sox shortstop until they acquired Stephen Drew, and now he's moved to third base as he bangs it wide of third into foul ground. Drew made his debut last night, not in the starting lineup here this evening, but Bogaerts stays at third base. Oh, 0-2 pitch, and he hit him. And an inauspicious start for TJ House. Had him down on the count. And now the Red Sox have 2 on with nobody out.
Certainly not what he was trying to do, because he had him down 0-2, trying to go inside, but just held on to this one a little too long. It catches him on the back leg, it looks like, on the right calf. Couldn't get out of the way, and that's exactly where it hit him. So Boston with a good start to this inning.
And now up comes Dustin Pedroia, who was 1 for 3 last night. This is the 5th game on this homestand, and it's only the 18th at bat for the opposition with a runner in scoring position.
Well, that's how good the starters have been.
Pedroia rips it foul down the left side, and a count 0-2. Well, TJ House, like Justin Masterson last night, trying to work out of some first inning traffic. John Farrell couldn't get over how Justin Masterson just hit a switch. He said from the 4th through the 7th innings, he said there was nothing to be had for our hitters. And the 0-2. Pedroia into center field. Right at Michael Bourne, who makes the grab, and the runners have to hold 1 down. Our keys to the game are brought to you by Akron Children's Hospital. TJ House staying good rhythm. And for the Indians offensively, try to get to Jake Peavy before he settles in. Peavy, he could rival the guy in Chicago for no decision award of the year.
Oh, yeah, Quintana.
He's only 1-2 on the season.
He's got
Peavy.
eight no decisions. Yes, he does. You're right. Well, he is getting the lowest run support of any Boston starter, and that's probably one big reason why.
Here's David Ortiz now taking a strike from TJ House. Ortiz was on the warpath again before tonight's ball game. Boston's starting pitcher for tomorrow's game, Brandon Workman, was suspended by Major League Baseball for his part in the bean brawl they had with Tampa Bay, and yet no discipline for David Price. And David Ortiz was just irate, saying, well, how can that be fair? How can our guy get suspended, and yet Price is the one who started everything when he hit me, and he doesn't get anything?
Right. Isn't that how it usually goes? They get the warning. The guy who gets somebody gets the warning. And he even hit another guy in the game and was not ejected.
Strike called. Now, I don't know if there's been an official announcement yet, but the Red Sox, from what I'm told, plan to appeal the suspension, and Brandon Workman has officially appealed that suspension, so he will make his start against the Indians tomorrow night. The 1-2. And Ortiz fouls it over toward the on-deck circle. You know the thing, though, Rick? Ortiz can complain about things not being fair all he wants. It's going to fall on deaf ears largely throughout baseball.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You're right.
You want to talk about fair? Sit down, David Ortiz. Let's have a conversation. Cabrera nowhere to go for a double play, but he'll get the out at first base. Normally, he'd be the guy he'd be flipping it to.
Remember we talked about it yesterday? Double plays, Ortiz is only hitting 2.
That's why.
One reason why right there.
You hit it right on the head last night.
Because right there, you've got nobody at second base that you can flip to. It should have been a double play. What are you going to bring 4 guys over and have the third baseman over there?
Well, if there's not a runner at second, that third baseman would have been up the middle.
Yeah, probably
and
right.
And Cabrera's got a guy to go to.
Right.
So second and third for the Red Sox, 2 down, and Johnny Gomes the batter. So TJ House not out of the woods just yet. It was Gomes in the first inning last night who had a 3-0 count with the bases loaded and 2 out and took 3 straight strikes to end the inning, and the Red Sox never threatened to score again until Bogaerts hit the 2-run homer in the 8th inning. Swinging a foul tip. 1-1. TJ House checks the runners, the 1-1, a little bit low. House deals. Gomes takes right in there for a strike fastball. Up to 93 miles an hour from TJ House, and now he's 1 strike away from getting out of trouble.
Well, it's a good fastball. It's right there. Good pitch to hit. He took.
And the 2-2. Swing and a miss. He struck him out. And TJ House gets out of a first inning jam, and now the Indians are coming to bat. I'm loving it. By your local Toyota dealers. Visit buyatoyota.com. Toyota, let's go places. By Panini's. Get overstuffed at Panini's Bar and Grill. And by Jeep. Visit Jeep.com to learn more. The Indians have won 4 straight. Overall, 7 in a row here at home. And now Michael Bourn to lead it off for the Tribe against Jake Peavy. Longtime Padre, the former White Sox right-hander. He's been through the ringer in terms of injuries over his career. In some ways, it's amazing he's still out there pitching. And as Rick told you this year, he's been the master of the no decision. This is his 12th start. He has 1 win and 2 losses. Now, some of those games, he has deserved a better fate. He's pitched really well early in the year, but lately he's been getting banged around a bit.
Well, he pitched 8 innings, his longest start of the year, and gave up 8 hits and 3 runs. Last start against Atlanta, the Sox won it, but he didn't get a decision.
But then the 3 starts prior to that, he gave up a total of 16 runs to Minnesota, Detroit, and Tampa Bay. Bourn toward left field. It's down a base hit. Gomes cuts it off. Good, strong throw to second base.
Now, I remember last year where Michael led a game off with a home run off Jake Peavy.
After Michael Bourn, it's Asdrubal Cabrera, then Michael Brantley. Jason Kipnis, Lonnie Chisenhall, and Ryan Rayburn getting the start tonight at DH batting 6th. David Murphy, Yan Gomes, and Mike Aviles. The Indians starting lineup brought to you by Progressive.
GMC starting pitcher Jake Peavy. You can see his 12th start, 1 and 2. He's given up 10 home runs. He's 5 and 3 in his career against the Indians. He has made 11 starts against them. He's 3 and 1 in this ballpark. Last year when he was with the White Sox before going to Boston, Bourn hit a home run here, and that was the only run the Indians got off him the rest of the game.
Part of the reason for the number of no decisions for Peavy, he's left games this year with the score 2-2, 1-1, 1-1 again, down 2-1, and tied 2-2. So there's 5 starts where tough to win when you don't score hardly at all. And then there have been other games. He had a start in Baltimore where they didn't score a single run. He gave up 5. He had back-to-back starts where he gave up 5 and 6 runs, but his team only scored 2 each time. So
yeah, well, that's like when you talked about Quintana for the White Sox. He had 17 no decisions last year. It's just how it goes sometimes. It's not that you're not a good pitcher because you don't get a decision. It's just that's how your team plays on that given day when you're out there. Either you just don't pitch good enough or they don't score enough.
And the White Sox are 5 and 6 in his 11 starts, so it's probably been a little bit of both.
Yeah, it is. It's a combination. And Peavy, he's a competitor. He's tough. He yells at himself. Very animated on the mound. He'll scream at himself. You'll see him get into it here. When he makes a bad pitch, he's going to remind himself a couple of times.
Inside, he missed to Asdrubal Cabrera. Asdrubal 1 for 4 last night with a run batted in. He drove in Michael Bourn after Bourn tripled to lead off the 3rd inning last night. Bourn stole a base last night as well. That was with A.J. Pierzynski behind the plate and John Lackey on the hill. Hasn't really shown a strong move towards second yet. Peavy.
There
you can hear him screaming at himself.
Well, last night, I'll tell you what, a couple of guys stole bases. Aviles got one. It wasn't because of Pierzynski. He made a couple of really good throws. Calls went against him because that umpire, Quinn Walcott, had a couple of close calls, but he was right on every one of them.
Think they more stole the base off the pitcher Lackey last night? Combination.
One off Lackey, one off the shortstop not tagging him for Drew. never tagged the runner, if you remember.
He'd have been out otherwise.
He would have been out because the ball beat him, yes. And even the one that they did steal off Lackey was bang, bang. It could have went either way.
Well, let's see what Bourne is doing here. He's trying to shade his eyes from the sun right now.
Got to run.
With a 3-2 count.
Got to run. Lead off man aboard, nobody out, 3-2 count. Put him in motion.
There he goes. And
there
Cabrera
you go.
bullets one through the right side. Bourne all the way to third.
That's what you're looking for right there. You know he doesn't want to walk you. As a hitter, and you know the runner's going, you just look for that hole, and you first and third him. A nice job. That's what you try to do when you're the number 2 hole hitter. You know you're going to get a pretty decent pitch on a 3-2 count, and if you don't, you take it. But Bourne was looking all the way. He knew the ball was in the hole. He scampers to third base easily. Indians in good shape now, first and third, nobody out.
Rick, even Terry Francona commented that feels like with the warmer weather, Michael Bourne's starting to get confidence in that hamstring. He feels like he's getting back to being the kind of player who can affect the game and be a game changer at the top of the lineup.
Let's hope so, because that's what he's there for. You know, when you had some leg issues and some leg problems, it's always in the back of your mind, you think. You know, maybe when that weather does warm up, you don't feel it. It loosens up a lot quicker. But first and third, and Peavy had both hitters down. He had Bourne down to the count 1-2. He had Cabrera down to the count 0-2.
Michael Brantley trying to deliver the Indians' first run of the night. The Indians have scored first in each of their last 5 games and 8 of their last 9.
Well, if you remember, we go back to April. We talked about, boy, they used to play from in front.
And they will again tonight. Brantley delivers an RBI single to right field. Bourne comes home. Cabrera stopping at second. Brantley's 41st run batted in, and Dr. Smooth has the Tribe on top early.
Well, it's funny because Cabrera had to bend down, and Holt, the first baseman, not a very big guy, couldn't get over him. This is going to be our McDonald's. I'm loving it. Tough look. And he's not a very big guy over at first base. He's more of a middle infielder. He did play a little third base for him, but you see he can't reach this ball, and Brantley muscles it into right field. Drives in Bourne, and now they still have runners at first and second. 3 straight singles.
Michael Bourne got it started. He's already on the bench, having scored the game's first run. And now Jason Kipnis. Pierzynski and Peavy got in each other's way, and everybody's safe. The bases are loaded.
What a great idea. I don't care if you're the 4th place hitter or not. You talk about the element of a surprise. And that's why both Pierzynski and Peavy converging on the ball. Usually the catcher's going to take it, but this is how competitive Peavy is. It's easier for Pierzynski to make the throw. Once Peavy gets it, he doesn't know what to do with it. You know what I mean? He's got to turn. He had no chance at third. He only plays at first base. But Peavy, he couldn't make the throw. You can't plant and throw that way. The spin move by the catcher is the easier go, so it's an infield single for Kipnis, and I think a pretty heads-up play there, putting the pressure on the defense.
Great second look on the Wendy slow-mo replay. Now Lonnie Chisenhall, first ball swinging, sends one into the Red Sox dugout. Scatters him a bit. Lonnie was 1 for 3 last night, and he gave the Indians the first inning lead with a 2-out, 2-run single in last night's game.
Big hit. He's gotten a lot of big hits this year.
15 doubles so far this year for Chisenhall. Good pitch from Peavy, and he'll get ahead 0-2. Lonnie has batted .300 with runners in scoring position. They're loaded with nobody out in the first. Down in the dirt, and a good block by Pierzynski. I mentioned the batting average with runners in scoring position. There you see his numbers in his career with the bases loaded, followed by what he's done this year. How about just this season with runners on base? Period. Batting .389.
Well, he's had a solid year to this point.
There's a liner towards center field. It's falling. It's going to be in for a base hit. Scoring on the play is Cabrera. Brantley puts on the brakes. He'll jet back to third. And it's another run for the Indians as Chisenhall drives home his 19th of the year. 2-0 Cleveland. Bases still loaded. Still nobody out.
Peavy's probably saying out there, what do I have to do? Brantley had to muscle one over the first base and got it in there. A bunt that put a little pressure on him. And then Chisenhall comes in and flares one in front of the outfielders. 5 straight singles for the Indians to start this game out. And there's still nobody out. This could be a huge inning for the Tribe.
Well, they've kind of dinked and dunked their way to the early lead. Now you'd like to see
a few bloops and a blast.
Now Ryan Rayburn will be the first right-handed hitter that Jake Peavy has seen tonight. Rayburn has hit .286 this year with runners in scoring position. Again, they're loaded up with nobody out. And a ground ball double play style to short. Herrera to Pedroia on to Holt. And a double play makes it 3-0 Cleveland.
Boy, did Peavy and the Red Sox need that. That's a 4th ground ball double play that the Indians have grounded into in the first 2 games. Let's check the Red Sox defense that we've been watching try and make these plays all evening so far. Gomes is in left. Bradley Jr. in center. Hassan is in right. Bogarts is at third. Herrera at short. Pedroia at second. Holt is at first. Brzezinski behind the plate.
David Murphy's 3 for 3 in the series thus far. Takes low ball 1. Murphy had 3 singles last night to extend his hitting streak to 6 games. Funny, you think back, Rick, we went on that road trip, and he just had a weekend to forget in Baltimore, kind of carried over into Chicago, but he came back here to his comfort zone. He always loved hitting here as a visiting player, and he's carried that right on over now that he's a member of the Tribe.
Yes.
Peavy with a fastball strike. It's 1-2.
Well, you're talking about Murphy and how he likes to hit here. The Indians outfielders, man, their average .290 average, all 3 outfield positions combined, which is second in all of it, Major League Baseball when it looks at average, because you have Brantley out there, you have Bourne.
And Murphy's been swinging it well too.
Yeah, Murphy, all 3 of them, they've scored 90 runs as far as the outfield goes. That's 12th in the league, and they've hit 17 home runs, which is right in the middle of the pack at 14.
Well, just Brantley and Murphy have combined for 73 runs batted in now. 2-2 count. And it's outside. This is where Murphy can be at his most dangerous.
Yeah. You think you make a great pitch on him, and the next thing you know, it ends up hitting grass in the outfield somewhere. Whether he picks it up off the ground or however he does it.
Swung on and missed, and Peavy strikes him out to end the inning. But the Indians start off hot tonight here against Boston. They played 3 in the first and lead it 3-0. Northeast Ohio Honda dealers. By the Cleveland Clinic. Call today for an appointment today. And by the Northeast Ohio Ford dealers. Second inning, it will be A.J. Pierzynski, Alex Hassan, and Jackie Bradley Jr. Pierzynski last night went 0 for 3. Twice he grounded into double plays. And he said afterwards that Masterson had unhittable stuff last night. And he said, I've faced him plenty in the past to know.
That was my point. He faced him a lot of times when he was with Chicago, so he has a book on him. And when you see a pitcher and he's dealing like that, that's the old tip of the cap. You know, hey, that guy was dealing.
Well, I think
not much you could do.
What Mickey Callaway and Terry Francona were really pleased about, and I'm sure Justin was too, is he was able to throw all of his pitches last night, throw them all for strikes. So you talk about something that is a huge confidence builder going forward. You know, it's one thing if, hey, I had a wipeout slider and that was my go-to pitch, but he threw the fastball, four-seam, two-seam, his slider, everything was working for him.
I think that was the key for Callaway. He's been trying to get him to throw more four-seamers. And, you know, he's been in love and just throwing the two-seamer, getting away from his slider. Well, that slider's that much better when you can throw a four-seamer, two-seamer, and a slider because it's going two different directions, and then you've got one that's going straight. So he had it all working last night, and that's I'm sure Callaway was thrilled, as well as Justin. He was nice and relaxed, though, too.
You know, it's funny how when you're in the middle of it, as we were calling the game and watching it unfold, I mean, we've seen it happen this year. We've seen in the other big league games, we've seen guys strike out the side on 9 pitches. I didn't realize at the time that Justin was the first Cleveland pitcher to ever do that.
Well, I didn't realize it either. You know what amazed me more than that? 25 consecutive strikes.
Well, that's just, as Mark Shapiro used to say, that's just wiffle ball numbers.
That's,
like, what?
That's goofy.
25
that's like,
straight?
That's like cartoons.
Yeah.
It happens every spring, that old movie, long time ago.
Here's the 2-2. Bouncing ball in the hole and a base hit. So Pierzynski goes the other way, and both hits for Boston have been by the left-handed hitters, just bouncing it through the left side of the infield. Our great clip of the game from last night.
Yeah, just watch that with a slider. There's a nice little four-seamer. There's a slider.
Of those 25 consecutive strikes, Rick, 8 were called. 8 were swings and misses. There were 6 foul balls, 2 ground outs, 1 fly ball out.
Yeah, we'll never see that again by any pitcher. Well, Boston has had their leadoff man aboard twice. As you mentioned, both left-handed hitters got the base hits. And against House, lefties coming into the game, they were 7 for 19, a 368 average with her. 2 for 2 tonight, or 2 for 3 tonight.
House falls behind 2-0. Hassan just made his major league debut on Sunday. Getting called up from AAA Pawtucket. And he's a Quincy, Mass native. Talk about confusing. Where'd you go to school? Boston College High School. No, I meant, wait, college or high school? Yeah, Boston College High School. Wait, what? Wait, what? There's a strike called.
Right in his own backyard.
When he made his debut for the Red Sox, he was the first Massachusetts native to get a hit for Boston since Mark Bellhorn. And he strikes out here for the first out in the inning. Let's go downstairs to Katie Witham. Katie, I made the comment, I think it was T.J. House's last start, that he reminded me a little bit of Mark Burley in the way he worked so quickly in the ballgame.
Yeah, he was the definition in his last start of get it and go, as Terry Francona said today. But Mickey Callaway said the reason he's able to do that is because of his command. On any night, he can get a feel or find a feel for all of his pitches, which allows him to go right along with the game the catcher's calling for him. The key tonight, Matt, and what to watch for, he wants to see TJ House use that sinker in and off the plate, especially to lefties.
Well, that's why the lefties have been hitting him well, so he's got to try and find something to get them out. But you love guys when they work like this. Get the ball, let's go. You wonder why more of them don't do it.
Obviously, things slow down a little bit with runners on base.
But left-handers are wearing out the hole.
Third time now, a left-handed hitter has punched it through that hole between third and short.
Well, you're going to look at it. Here's the fastball, and it's right there. It's down. It was out, but not out enough. Still had a good piece of the plate, and he stayed back on it and drives it in the hole the other way.
Jonathan Herrera, switch hitting shortstop, steps in. Herrera getting the start tonight at shortstop. And the pitch is in for a strike. Good off-speed pitch, and Herrera lost his toe hold. He swung so hard, and it's 0-2.
Yeah, you get him down and in over the top. That back foot slider, a good pitch.
Double play ball. Kipnis to Cabrera. And a turn two to get out of the inning. TJ House gets a double play ball. And the Red Sox are erased in the second, 3-0 Cleveland.
Every Indians game with MLB.com at bat on your favorite mobile phone or tablet. Get live look-ins, instant replay, audio scores, the free MLB game of the day, and more. Download on the App Store or visit Indians.com.
Yan Gomes will lead off the home half of the second for Cleveland. 0 for 3 last night on the series opener. at the belt for a fastball strike. Indians opened the game with 5 consecutive singles against Jake Peavy. They turned it into 3 runs. Right back to him. Off of his glove, he throws it off balance and throws it away. And Gomes will go to second base. So that time, maybe his own over-aggressiveness hurt him.
I think he had more time than he realized. He tried to throw it off balance. He had time to pick it up, plant, and throw. He tried to be an infielder and throw it off one foot, and he was wild with it. Watch, he had time to just pick it up and throw. He tries to throw it off his back foot. And look where Gomes is. He was a good 15 feet from the bag. He could have stopped and planted. Throws it wide. Probably will be a hit and an error. That's a hit and an error.
Mike Avila's push bunts one up the first base line. And the flip to first, they get the out. Holt was a little indecisive at first, but then he realized to go get the ball, and Pedroia was there to take the throw.
I like it. I like it. It keeps the pressure on the defense. You get the runner over to third base. You give Bourne an opportunity to drive him in, and he almost made a perfect bunt to get the base hit. So you give him a sacrifice. It doesn't cost him an at-bat. And it moves the runner over. Good job.
Michael Bourne looks at a breaking ball for a strike.
Well, Boston going to bring the infield in early now and try and cut off a run. Already down 3. John Farrell says, let's go. Let's take our chances.
Off the plate. He misses. Down and in. He swung over the top. Seven-game hitting streak for Michael Bourne. And with the infield drawing in, he fouls that one off, trying to punch one over the head of those drawn in infielders and get Yan Gomes home, or perhaps a fly ball, which we've seen Bourne able to do. He hit one out of here on Sunday for a game-winning home run.
Well, he had a couple of change-ups. He just got a piece of that one. The Indians have done great on the homestand. 6 for 8. Runners on third and less than 2 outs, getting him home.
Just off the plate. Peavy wanted it. He's upset, but didn't get the call.
Well, either that or he was a little upset that Bourne didn't bite. You can see that's off the plate. You know, it runs away. Przinski's going to hold it. He was thinking Bourne might go fishing, but he didn't.
Down and in. Try to get him to chase after a pitch he got him to fish for earlier in the at-bat. This time Bourne lays off, and now a full count.
But this is what the Indians hitters did. Bourne, Cabrera, Chisenhall. They were all down in the count in the first inning, and they were able to get hits. Bourne was down 0-2. Cabrera 1-2. Chisenhall 0-2. They all got hits.
Bourne smacks it out of play.
It's only appropriate he has a big night tonight on Michael Bourne bobblehead night.
That's right.
Started off with a single, scored a run. Got a chance to drive one home now. Nope.
Slow chopper to first. Gomes unable to come home, 2 down. Hey, Katie, Jake Peavy grew up in Alabama, and those who know him best say off the field he's easygoing and laid back. What happens to this guy when he steps between the lines?
Yeah, I don't think they would describe him as that when he's on the mound out there. In fact, Terry Francona today said you feel like it's a playoff game when Peavy's on the mound because he's the ultimate competitor. He gives everything he has and more, which in turn makes his stuff that day that much better, Matt.
He says that he tries to never yell obscenities because he said, I have 3 little boys, and I know they're watching home, and there are kids watching. And so when I yell at myself out there, if you hear me, I try to never yell anything that would be
Well,
obscene.
he doesn't do a real good job. He better give him headsets.
But he said sometimes my competitive nature does get the better of me, and you wonder, going back to that first inning, trying to go after that bunt, ultimately that ends up costing him a run.
Yeah.
Cabrera pops one back out of play.
Well, last year he pitched that one game we talked about, and he won it. He pitched 7 innings, gave up 5 hits, and he struck out 11. But that was a game where I said Bourne led the game off with a home run. Indians take a 1-0 lead. Well, that's all they got the rest of the game, and 4 other hits after that, and he punched out 11. So they got 3 in the first tonight. So that's a good thing.
Now the 0-2. Missed outside. Sinker slider pitchers, I mean, when they're on, think about Jake Westbrook, think about Justin Masterson last night. I mean, they can be as fun to watch as there is a pitcher in baseball.
Well,
and Jake Peavy's had games like that where we've seen him. It's like, whew, you'd wonder how you ever get a hit against that guy.
Well, he pitches inside, and he can do a number of different things to get you out. You know, he's got a good changeup now, but he's always been pretty much a strikeout pitcher. You know, I don't consider him a typical sinker slider guy, even though he does have both, you know, the sinker and the slider. He's been
more of a power pitcher.
Yeah. I consider sinker slider guys like contact pitchers or pitch to contact.
More like a Jake Westbrook.
Yeah. Derek Lowe, those guys that make you put the ball in play. Mark Burley, that, you know, they're not overpowering, but
then again, you get a guy like Masterson, and even when he was in his prime, at that time known as Fausto Carmona, those guys were sinker slider, but power pitchers who could make you look bad.
Well, they can't throw the ball straight most of the time. And when they're in the zone or near the zone and they get ahead of you, it could be a long night. If they get behind, they could be in trouble.
Cabrera making Peavy work for it.
0-2 to 3-2. Again. That's what Cabrera did last time and got a base hit between first and second. I'll tell you, they've had some really good at-bats with 2 strikes here in the first 2 innings.
Well, they sure have. And it looks like a well-prepared team. 3-2 pitch. Rip foul, and Sandy Alomar.
Santos.
Oh, he can merengue down there at first base.
His heart skipped a beat. Look at him smiling. You know you're taking abuse. Hey, those guys hit the ball hard. It gets on you in a hurry. Look at him. You think you're standing there. A little merengue.
Like a bullfighter getting out of the way of that one. Give him one of those red capes.
Toto.
Payoff pitch to Cabrera. And he drives one toward right field, and a head-high catch made by Hassan ends the inning. After 2, it's Cleveland 3, Boston nothing.
Night tomorrow as we wrap up the homestand and the series with the Red Sox. It'll be Dollar Dogs all night long. Go to Indians.com for your tickets.
Third inning, top of the order for Boston. Brock Holt, Xander Bogaerts, and Dustin Pedroia. Fastball strike. I'll be curious to see, Rick, second time through the lineup, if TJ House is able to make any adjustments against the left-handed hitters who slapped the ball through the left side of the infield first time around. Holt goes that way again, but it's in the air, and Michael Brantley cruises under it, one away. Stat of the game brought to you by Buick. The Indians pitchers have combined to punch out 519 batters so far this year. Bogaerts with a long drive to deep left field, and it is gone. Xander Bogaerts with his second home run of the series. And the solo shot gets the Red Sox on the board. And the Indians' lead is trimmed to 3-1.
This kid hits the ball hard, man. He hit one to right center for their 2 runs in the ball game, and he gets them on the board tonight.
Well, if he's disappointed about being displaced from shortstop, he's not showing it. He's not letting it affect his play, that's for certain.
5th home run.
Pedroia checks a swing and fouls it back. It's 0-2.
The Red Sox, they have the second best winning percentage when a left-hander takes the mound. They're at .650. They are 13-7. Seattle is 15-8. They're at .652.
And a rocket shot in the right field off the bat of Pedroia. And 1-on-1 out here in the third now as David Ortiz comes up.
Well, you see their approach, staying on the baseball and try and take them the other way. The left-handers have done that. Bogaerts pulled one, and then you see Pedroia going the other way. So they were 3 for 8 the first time through the lineup. They're 2 for 3 now.
Broke his bat, lines it to Cabrera, but no play at first as Pedroia dove back quickly, and there are 2 down. That'll bring up Johnny Gomes. Johnny Gomes went down swinging his first time up. Gomes so far in the series, 0 for 5 with 4 strikeouts. Line drive to center field, and that'll drop for a hit. Pedroia stops at second, and now Boston has 2 on with 2 out. Don't forget to tweet your photos to us using the hashtag STOFanPhoto. It's all courtesy of AT&T. You'll have a chance to have one of your photos shown during our telecast. A.J. Pierzynski, an opposite field single his first time up. Inside, he misses for ball one. He went around. 1-1.
That's the pitch he needs to be effective to left-handers, that slider. I don't know if he has very good control of it or consistently can throw it where he wants to. That's why I think his sinker has to be so effective on both parts of the plate to the lefties.
In the air, center field, long run for Bourne. He's on the track. He makes the catch in front of the wall to end the inning. So the Red Sox get on the board on the homer by Xander Bogaerts, but they strand a pair here in the third. The Indians still lead it 3-1. Just a reminder, as you enjoy a cold one, to stay tuned later in the game for Miller Time. It's brought to you by Miller Lite. Gorgeous night here at Progressive Field as the Indians continue this series against the Boston Red Sox. Tribe has won 4 in a row, including 7 straight here at home. The Indians stopped Boston's 7-game win streak in last night's series opener. Both teams in very similar positions. Boston's 27-30, the Indians 28-30.
Trying to get back to level par, man.
Yeah, Tribe's in third place in the Central, just 5.5 games out of first. Red Sox are in fourth in the AL East, but only 6.5 games back of Toronto, who's really been on fire this month. So for all of Boston's problems, they're still right there, just like Cleveland. But neither team can afford another one of those 6-8 game losing streaks right now. Brantley with a long drive, but fouled on the right side. Not that either team couldn't withstand that right now, Rick, but they're just so hard because you work so hard to get back to here and then you fall back down. How many times can you pick yourself up during the course of a long season?
It's hard to do, but, you expend so much energy trying to get back. I mean, you have to just keep moving. And you look at it like, let's win every series. It's not like let's win 10 in a row.
No.
You just play every game very hard. You're in every game, and let's win 2 out of 3. Or 3 out of 4 if you're playing that 4-game series, which we will have 2 of them on the next road trip. For the Indians, they have to bring this game that they're playing here on the road with them. And they got to pitch like they're pitching here on the road. Just try and stay consistent. But the starters it's been fun. It's been a fun homestand to this point. They've been very good. And in turn, the offense has responded. You get some walk-off wins, and you get to play at home. That's always fun.
Well, you talk about winning series, and for the Indians, last night's win was really important because so far this year, when they've won the series opener, they've gone 7, 1-2 in the series that they have played. A couple of 4-game series they split, but 7-1 in the 3-gamers. That's getting it done. Holt will flip it to Peavy, who covers, and that's out number 1 here in the bottom of the 3rd.
Well, the best deal in town for families is the KeyBank Kids Value Ticket. It's available every game out at the ballpark. Each kid receives $15 for free to use on concessions or merchandise. Visit Indians.com/kidsvalue and purchase your tickets today.
Jason Kipnis laid down that bunt in the first inning. Went for a base hit. But Peavy and Pierzynski both went for the ball at the same time, and it ended up costing him a run because of the miscommunication.
You know, the thing I didn't mind about it is that the first 3 guys got base hits. Bourne got a single, Cabrera, then Brantley drove in the first run. And he's thinking, okay, I got to stop this. Well, Kipnis just element of surprise. Put a bunt down. They didn't know what to do. Confusion. So it added to a run. So that's why I liked it. And how many times? We saw Kipnis do that a number of times last year. 4 or 5 times. He can bunt for a base hit. That's a beautiful thing. That's a gimme.
In off the plate.
Peavy he's been done a nice job getting ahead in the count, but he's had a hard time putting them away. Now, whether he's trying to be too fine or make perfect pitches.
He got Kipnis to swing and miss here for his second strikeout tonight, 2 down.
There's a nice single that started off by Michael Bourne, and Cabrera on a 3-2 pitch, first and thirds. Brantley gets it and muscles it past first base into right field. There's the bunt base hit. Confusion. So you have bases loaded, and then Chisenhall just blooped one in. Well, that drives in a run. Then they got a double play ball they scored another run on.
There's Lonnie again looking at a ball outside. Even though Lonnie Chisenhall doesn't have enough plate appearances to qualify yet for the batting race, he's third on the Indians in hits. Brantley leads the club. Michael Brantley has 66. David Murphy is second with 51, and then Lonnie is third with 50. Sends a high fly ball deep to center field. Bradley is back, and he'll make the catch. The Indians go 1-2-3. After 3 innings, it's the Indians 3 and the Red Sox 1. Audiology sound of the game.
Matt, I'm getting all the Browns inside information out here in center field with running back Ben Tate. Thank you for taking the time first off. And how's camp going?
It's going great. It's good to be around the fans. It's good to be around my teammates, and as we're trying to, build this next step to, winning games.
Absolutely. You're around a lot of Cleveland fans out here today. What's it like being out here at Progressive Field enjoying an Indians game?
It's good. It's awesome. This is probably it's my first actual major league game I'm coming to ever in my life. So it's a cool experience, and it's even better because I do know Michael Bourne. So it's cool to see him do his job.
Absolutely, you got the best view too, Ben. Appreciate the time. Good luck this season.
Thank you,
Matt. We'll send it back up to you.
All right, thanks a lot, Katie. The former Auburn Tiger now will be playing with the Cleveland Browns this fall. And down goes Alex Hassan for the second time tonight. Third strikeout for TJ House.
Again, he gets him to swing over a pitch that's down and in. That's the second time he got Hassan to swing at that pitch. He has 3 strikeouts now.
Jackie Bradley Jr. takes a strike. Bradley singled through the left side of the infield his first time up. By the way, we should mention that Ben Tate did a nice job throwing out the ceremonial first pitch. We've seen some of those go sideways here recently, but he stepped up.
Yes, he did. He certainly did. David Murphy was the guy that caught the first pitch.
Bounced to second base.
There you go. He went inside on him there. Didn't give him any swinging room.
2 down. Let's take a look at the form of Ben Tate on the hill.
He wanted to get his sign. There he is, of course, with slider. Look at, pull it up, shook him off.
Hey, it's over the plate.
That was a splitter. you saw the good downward movement go down, and it was right on the dish.
I mean, if there's a baseball fan who hasn't seen the first pitch thrown out by 50 Cent at a Mets game, you have to go online, Google it, whatever, search for it, because it might be one of the worst of all time. It is. Well, Ben's out there winning them over fan by fan. Jonathan Herrera taking a strike.
He's like a politician out there walking through there. Here, vote for me. I'll set you free. Come on, see me in October, September.
Bounce to third. Aviles backs up, sets his feet, throws him out. And on 10 pitches, TJ House retires the Red Sox in order. Now on FoxSportsOhio.com, Game Day Live has answers to your Tribe questions. How has Browns running back Ben Tate stirred up Twitter? And see how Tito feels about Manny Ramirez's new gig. It's all on FoxSportsOhio.com. Ryan Rayburn going to lead off the home half of the fourth for Cleveland. Grounded into a double play his first time up. Rayburn with a sky-high pop in the left field. Gomes makes the catch. One away. Our injury report is brought to you by the attorneys at Elk and Elk. Jared Saltalamacchia, he's gone on that 7-day concussion DL. Diamondbacks lose a pair of players to the 15-day disabled list. And Danny Valencia, he's on the DL, and the Royals have recalled Mike Moustakas.
I saw that.
David Murphy in there for the Tribe, struck out his first time up. Uh-oh.
Brzezinski, what are they having problems here?
Looked a little awkward, didn't it?
Yeah, it did.
Now the 1-0. Murphy pops one high in the air. Center fielder Jackie Bradley makes the catch. And we've got two down. And that's going to bring up Yan Gomes. Gomes had an infield single his first time up. The Indians have 6 hits so far tonight, and all 6 have been singles. But they've been able to parlay that into the 3-run first inning.
Well, I think after he shut him down in that second inning when they had the man on third and less than 2 outs, it gave him a little extra juice.
Boy, on 5 pitches, the Indians sent 3 balls about as high in the air as you'll ever see against Jake Peavy. But it all adds up to a 1-2-3 inning. Sunnyside Toyota, a quarter-mile west of Great Northern Mall on the North Homestead Auto Mile. By Levin Furniture. And by Kia. Visit mykiacleveland.com to learn more. We go to the fifth inning, and the Indians still lead it 3-1. Top of the order due up here for Boston. Brooke Holt, Xander Bogaerts, and Dustin Pedroia. Holt singled in the first, fly to left his last time up. Trying to drag bunt his way aboard. What a flip by T.J. House!
Oh, man.
Oh, a terrific job to get off the mound. He raced over to the ball, and in one fell scoop, he records the out.
Well, way to field your position. He had to catch up with that ball. I thought that was a beautiful bunt by Holt. But watch how House comes over. He catches up and just scoops it right to him. Beautifully done. Nice play. Keep that leadoff man aboard.
Look how he turned the glove. He was thinking backhand maybe at first.
That was the wise thing. That's usually where it gets stuck in the webbing if you try and backhand it. Really nice play right there. Help your own cause.
Xander Bogaerts homered his last time up. It's the only run thus far for the Red Sox. Oh, nice job of changing pace, and he was way out in front of it. 1-2. Well, Bogaerts may end up being the third baseman of the future for the Red Sox. But in our brief look at him, no matter where they stick him, it looks like he's a pretty good young player.
Yeah, he's got some pop in his bat, no doubt.
Cabrera throws him out, 2 down.
Again, that left-hander with a drag bunt as that left-hander's fallen to the third base side. I guess he could have bunted it a little bit harder. I thought it was a pretty good bunt, but House made a very good play.
You know, from that angle, you got a better appreciation for how quickly House had to get off the mound and really put the hammer down to get over there to get him out. Dustin Pedroia, base hit his last time up.
Pretty good pitch right there.
Wow.
Where was that? Did you see House look back in?
Yeah. I think everybody's wondering.
You know, and then you try and make a better pitch, and you pull it or you throw it wide.
Well, it's a 2-out walk, and that's the first walk issued by T.J. House here tonight. But it's going to bring up David Ortiz now, who is 0 for 2 on the night.
Well, now, like we talked about back in the first inning when he came up with 2 men aboard, third baseman Aviles had to stay over near third base when he hit the ball to Cabrera, and they could only get the 1 out. Now he's back over there because nobody is on second.
Combs going to go out after House misses for ball 1. Dangerous part of the lineup. You don't want to have to work from behind facing a guy like Ortiz. He had a big cut, but he couldn't square it up. And a count 1-1.
Well, he had a pitch, and he fouled it off. He may not get a better one in the at-bat, but that one was right down the middle. Took a big hack at it.
A little bit low. Yeah, it's 2 balls and a strike. Pedroia at first with 2 down. Got that one in on him. And it's fouled back to even the count of 2-2. I think he's upset that he swung at that pitch more than anything. Fouled back. Well, TJ reaching back up to 95 miles an hour. He went right at him with a fastball, and Ortiz couldn't do anything but foul it off.
Maybe sitting on a breaking ball. I don't know.
Full count. Terry Francona went over to say something to Mickey Callaway, the Tribe's pitching coach. Pedroia will be off on the 3-2 pitch. And Ortiz might have chased ball 4 there, and it'll keep the at-bat alive.
Yeah, oh yeah, that ball would have been off the plate. He just fouled it off, lives for another pitch.
Again, the runner goes, and this is fouled first base side. Pretty good battle here. This will be the 9th pitch of the at-bat. And TJ House just over that 75 pitch mark. Working with a 2-run lead. Pedroia will take off. And again, the ball is fouled out of play. All right, so you've got an experienced hitter with all of these years of at-bats and clutch moments for David Ortiz and a rookie pitcher. The longer this at-bat goes, where does the pendulum of advantage swing to?
He's falling off the tough pitches he throws away, and he's still looking for something that he might be. He's been trying to turn on everything in this at-bat, except just staying alive. See, he's falling off some really good pitches. I don't think he can do damage to any of those pitches, but, you know, he's just making them work to try and get them out. Look at that one was even down. That's ball 4. It looks like Ortiz is just in the swing mode. Maybe he could buzz one by him inside, you know, and get it in off the plate. Don't miss on the plate. Because he's been away. He's been feeling away, and fouling something off. Just buzz him inside, see if he swings at it, and you jam him. Yep, here it comes. Get it in there.
To center field. Right at Michael Bourne, inning over. What a job by TJ House. That was a terrific battle against Ortiz, and the Indians maintain a 3-1 lead. Sports 1. Use the hashtag Indians on FS1 and let everyone know about your Tribe passion. We go to the bottom of the 5th inning with the Tribe leading it 3-1. Mike Aviles will lead it off. He laid down a sacrifice bunt his first time up. Takes a strike.
Now would be a great time to add on. Try and get one more. A really good battle between House and Ortiz to end that inning. What was it, 11 pitch at bat? He fouled off 7 pitches.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting. I'm looking down at my scorecard, and this game's starting to take on the same shape as last night's game.
Yes.
Where the Indians got 3 off Lackey in the first, and then he settled in and was able to pitch deep into the ballgame, and all of a sudden here's Lackey. He has retired 10 in a row.
That's why I'm saying it's a good time to add on.
In-game recap brought to you by your Toyota dealers. Indians with 5 straight singles to start the game, and they led it 3-0. The Red Sox got their only run on a solo homer by Xander Bogaerts in the 3rd, his 2nd home run in the series, and that so far has been it. The last Indian to reach was Yan Gomes with the infield hit to start the 2nd inning. Bourne had a chance to add to the Indians' lead with Gomes at 3rd after Aviles sacrificed him over, but Michael grounded out to 1st, and Peavy has carved him up since then. To 1st, and Holt will take it himself. 2 down. Time for a Mazda game break, and we go back to the studios. Here's Al Pawlowski.
Matt and Rick, the Cardinals and the Royals tonight. So far, 4 runs have been scored. They all came right here, courtesy of Colton Wong. His first ever home run, and it's a grand slam. Came off James Shield in the bottom of the 2nd inning. It's 4-0. They're in the 5th in St. Louis. Matt?
3-1, the Indians on top here. Bottom of the 5th with 2 down and the bases empty, and Asdrubal Cabrera will be the batter. Singleton scored in the 1st, line to right his last time up. There's a long fly ball deep down the right field line. It is a foul ball. Quinn Walcott, the first base umpire, he was down on a knee, eyeballing it all the way, and emphatically signaled foul ball.
I'll tell you what, after that, the game he had last night at second base, he was down on one knee and it didn't miss by much. I like that guy as an umpire.
Thought maybe he was going to catch a glancing blow, but no dice.
He was open. He's done a nice job in this series. He's had some good calls and close calls.
0-2 pitch fouled back. Peavy has thrown 72 pitches. You see there, 50 have been strikes.
Well, he has been ahead of a lot of hitters. He hasn't walked anybody.
Well, last night the problem for John Lackey was his inability to throw strikes in that first inning. He said, I can't remember the last time I walked a leadoff hitter.
Well, we told you in his 11 starts going into last night, he only had 1 walk in the first inning.
Oh, there you go.
He had 2 last night.
And the Indians made him pay for both as they were able to get on the board early.
Well, tonight Peavy has 10-0-2 1-2 counts. But the Indians have really done a nice job to get themselves back into counts when he's had them. Cabrera in his first 2 at-bats is one of the culprits.
Yeah, Asdrubal was 0-2. Got it back, and Singleton came around to score first time up. Down
That's
on the dirt.
21st pitch for Cabrera in this ball game.
And he's not a guy normally that sees a lot of pitches.
Every time he's been down 0-2.
Cabrera's a guy that he looks early in the count. Tries to put the ball in play.
Well, he certainly does when you get runners in scoring position.
Well, he's gone from 0-2 to 3-2.
3-2 count.
And the payoff pitch struck him out. Indians go in order, and Jake Peavy continues to motor. But the Indians still lead it 3-1. Batter with a runner aboard, so he's the tying run at the plate. TJ House went at him, tried to get him to expand his strike zone a few times. It was a terrific battle.
Well, he did expand it, but he fouled him off.
11 pitches, 7 of them were fouled off, and finally he had a rocket to center, but it was right at Michael Bourne, and the inning was over.
That was a very good. He never gave in. Kept throwing strikes. We're close enough where he had to swing.
Indians bullpen is quiet as TJ House delivers his 80th pitch of the night. Nine times he's had a Red Sox hitter 0-2-1-2. That's the name of the game in pitching. Try to get the hitter to swing at your pitch, not the other way around. And as a hitter, you're trying to get into good counts to where you can eliminate pitches. And
right, and you shrink the plate in half.
Which is exactly where Johnny Gomes is right now. So a leadoff walk. Only the second issued by House so far tonight. Bullpen phone ringing for Cleveland. Here's our AT&T fan photo. Don't forget, you tweet us your photos by using the hashtag STOFanPhoto for a chance to have them shown during one of our games. It's all courtesy of AT&T. Is Kipnis photo bombing there, or is it? Here's Mickey Callaway out to have a conference on the mound with T.J. House and company. And the bullpen about to get busy. Mark Zubczynski will get up.
Just stalling a little bit for some time. He's got Brzezinski, the left-hander. Hassan, who he struck out twice in this ball game, the right-hander. Then you go back to lefty.
And a strike over the outside corner. Brzezinski flied to deep center. His last time up, it was one of those that could have been a game changer. He sent Michael Bourne to the warning track, but came up short. Chased one down, and it's 0-2. Upstairs, he missed. I'm not sure if that was a purpose pitch to change the old eye level. There's been a couple of times where we've seen TJ reach back, and he's hit 95 miles an hour with his fastball. Brzezinski golfs one towards center field. Bourne over to make the running grab, one away.
Well, the Tribe hosts the Tigers on June 20th, and there will be post-game fireworks following that game. It'll be set to the music of Nirvana. Also, the Rally Alley will be out there. As always, family-friendly pregame option. Come on out. Tigers Indians, and you can visit and get your tickets at Indians.com.
Alex Hassan is 0 for 2. He has struck out twice tonight. Swung out and missed. Snap throw to first, and a nice job by Chisenhall to get off the bag and make the stop.
Well, right there, I'll tell you what, Chiz saves an error.
Two balls and a strike. Boy, Hassan, for a guy who's, I mean, he's not a giant, but at 6'3", big guy, and he got a lot of movement up there at home plate, waiting on the pitch.
Mm-hmm. Well, you can have all the movement you want when you're getting ready, as long as the bat gets into the hitting area. Once he starts delivering, it quiets down.
3-1 to count. I don't know if TJ House is just starting to run out of gas or if he's just lost command of the strike zone, but he's been behind to a number of hitters here. Third time through the order.
That Ortiz, that bat may have taken a little juice away from him.
Good point. Strike called and a full count. Yeah, you always hear managers and pitching coaches talk about stressful innings and stressful pitches. Well, those were all stressful pitches for him in that situation.
Well, he got through it, and he continued to throw strikes.
3-2, runner holds. Swing and a miss. He struck him out.
Give him credit.
And that's 4 Ks for House, 2 down in the inning.
3 of them have come against Alex Hassan. And, I mean, he came back, threw him a fastball, and then changed speeds. Went with a little breaking ball, gets him out of there, and Terry's going to go to the bullpen. So T.J. House just 1 out away from 6 innings again this time. And he went through. Nice. 6 hits, give up 1 run.
Walked a couple, hit a batter, struck out 4, but only allowed the 1 run. So another nice outing for T.J. House. Fans give him a nice.
Hey, another good start, man. I mean, he went out there and threw strikes. He walked a couple. He struck out 4, gave up 6 hits. The only blemish was the solo home run. What more can you do?
Mark Zubchinski on for the 31st time this year. He's got Jackie Bradley Jr. Lefty-lefty matchup here. We won't see Brian Shaw tonight. He's pitched in 3 straight games, and Terry Francona said he told him after last night's game, if you have to go to arbitration, I'll go with you and tell him that I shouldn't have pitched in 3 straight games.
Not like that's going to help.
He felt bad because Shaw was on the hook for a couple of runs last night, and he said, I just was one of those things, you're trying to win the game, and he said, I probably pushed him a little farther than I should have.
Well, Zubchinski now takes the lead in games pitched in the league. He was tied with Shaw. Cody Allen one behind those guys. They got the top 3 guys in the league in games.
There's Brian Shaw. Just look at how much he's pitched. 85 in the last week.
He went to get a sports jacket today over at the store, and his right arm's 3 inches longer than his left. They had to especially make that right arm.
You do alterations on the fly?
Yeah.
Did it hit the bat or the hand? They're going to say got to hit him on the hand. Boy, that thing ricocheted a long way for that to not have hit the bat. But that's what Jerry Davis is claiming, and now Terry Francona is going to go out and.
Well, let's take a look and see. It's going in, and you knew he tried to get out of the way. You just weren't. I didn't see it. Where did it hit? I didn't see it. Let's see if it hits the wrist. Yes, it did. Hit him right on the wrist, right around the end of that red sleeve he is wearing.
So the Red Sox have 2 on and 2 out. And now the switch hitting Jonathan Herrera, the batter. Scott Atchison is getting loose in the Tribe pen now. Line drive, base hit into left field. Coming around third, Johnny Gomes going to try to score. Brantley's throw to the plate. It won't get him. And down to third, alertly goes Jackie Bradley Jr. And it's a 1-run game now, as Zipchinski hits a batter and now gives up an RBI single.
Yeah, with 2 outs, they make it happen. It's a breaking ball coming into him, and he lined it over the head of Cabrera. Brantley's going to make the throw in, and not in time. Gomes with 2 outs is going to score. And then Bradley goes over to third base. So it's first and third now. Still 2 outs, but it's a 3-2 ball game.
Top of the order, Brock Holt. He's 1 for 3 on the night.
So that closes the book on House. He gives up the 2 runs.
In there for a strike to even the count of 1-1. Holt chased one out of the strike zone. It's 1-2.
Boy, this would be the perfect time now with this situation with the lefty on the mound. You got that guy on first base. Take a couple steps and stumble to see if you can get the left-hander to throw over to first base and then get in the rundown and let that guy from third come running across home plate before they tag you out. The old Billy Martin play.
Bounced it in there. Runners move, and now into scoring position goes Herrera. It'll be a wild pitch.
Yeah, there's no way he would throw that ball through to second base once he doesn't catch it cleanly. He did a nice job to keep it in front of him. Your main concern is that tying run at third base. That guy at first, you're thinking with 2 outs, well, you go right ahead. I'm not going to throw it through. Got a guy that can run on third base.
Got a piece and stays alive. And it count stays 2 balls and 2 strikes. Brock Holt has been a source of energy for the Red Sox since he got the call up.
Done a heck of a job with 2 outs, too.
The 2-2. And now a full count. He had a 4-for-4 game on Sunday. All 4 hits were doubles, so.
See him just look over in who was in the on-deck circle. This will be his last pitch or last hitter, regardless.
Hit on the ground to third, Mike Aviles. Throws it over, and the inning is over. Red Sox get a run closer. We'll go to the bottom of the 6th. It's Cleveland 3, Boston 2. Three-2, the Indians lead it. Bottom of the 6th inning. And for the Tribe, Michael Brantley, Jason Kipnis, Lonnie Chisenhall due up. Jake Peavy has retired 12 in a row. And the Indians' lead is down to a run after they started the game with 5 straight singles, scoring 3 times in that first inning. Then a leadoff single to start the 2nd inning, and then nothing since.
He hasn't walked anybody. He hasn't given them any base runners. They've had to earn their way on, and they started out the game like a house on fire, and then...
Yeah, Peavy's biggest sin, Rick, has been allowing Indians hitters back into counts. If anything, he's been ahead and then can't put them away, so a lot of 2-2, 3-2 counts after he had him down 0-2, 1-2.
But he's still out there, man, and he's not sweating it right now, let's put it that way. Indians need to get something going and respond.
In the air, deep center field. Bradley back on the track at the wall, and he makes the catch for out number 1. Well, Brantley gave it a ride, but hit it to the big part of the yard. And Bradley was able to get back there and make the catch.
Yeah, he puts his back to the infield. It's up there for a while. He draws a beat on it. He gets a good look, and he knows he's got room to catch it.
Jason Kipnis struck out his last time up. Had that bunt single in the first. Bounces it foul.
Got to send along happy birthday wishes to Mike Santangelo, turning 86 today. Lives down in Canton. He is a huge Indians fan. Mike, happy birthday.
Kipnis bounces it towards second base, and Pedroia throws him out, 2 down.
Well, 10,000 fans will receive a new T-shirt. It's by popular popular local apparel company, GV Art and Design. That'll take place Wednesday, June 18th. The Angels will be in town. So come on out to the ballpark.
2 down. Here's Lonnie Chisenhall. Drove in a run on the first with an RBI single, and then he fly to center his last time up. Lonnie ropes one off the facing of the Boston dugout. 1-1 to count. One delivery. Missed outside. Battle of first place teams tonight in the Motor City, Toronto and Detroit. They're in the 7th inning. No score between the Blue Jays and the Tigers. Two-one delivery. And Lonnie pops it foul. Out of play. Now the 2-2. High and slicing foul, out of play again.
Gomes doesn't even see it. He didn't even see the ball. It's twilight right now, and he ran over there. He was going in the direction where he thought it was. He had no clue. It was like, watch this. Maybe if you take the glasses off,
well,
that
see,
might
those
help.
Those aren't necessarily sunglasses, are they?
Enhancers?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're probably enhancers, but right now that sky, you just can't pick it up.
Another foul back by Lonnie, who's putting up a pretty good battle here. Now Jake Peavy's pitch count up to 90.
Let's get a few seeds.
Some Scooby snacks. Those look like those orange tinted lenses.
Yeah, they brighten everything up.
He's probably wondering, are these even worth it? Down low, full count. Ryan Rayburn waits on deck. Bases empty, 2 down in the 6th. Indians lead it by a run. And he smacks it foul into the photo pit next to the dugout. Now the 3-2 pitch. Another foul out of play. This is similar to the at-bat David Ortiz had against T.J. House. Lonnie Chisenhall slapping balls foul. He's seen 9 pitches so far. 6 of them have been fouled out of play. This one's up the middle, and it's through. A base hit for Chisenhall to keep the inning alive, his 2nd hit of the night. And that snaps a string of 14 in a row set down by Peavy.
Good at-bat, boy. You work for it, you work hard, and it ends up on a good note as he just takes that little sinking fastball right back up the middle. That's Chisenhall's 2nd hit. Indians have 7, all singles.
Ryan Rayburn 0 for 2, and out comes John Farrell, and that might be it for Peavy.
Is that Nieves or Farrell?
Oh, my bad. You're right. Juan Nieves. He's got a similar walk that Farrell has, too. So they'll talk it over. And remind you that tomorrow the series wraps up here at Progressive Field between the Indians and the Red Sox. Our coverage begins at 6:30. Corey Kluber will be going for his 7th win of the year against the youngster Brandon Workman. No decisions in a 3.24 ERA. First pitch at 7 o'clock. Remember, Workman was suspended for his part in the bean brawl between Boston and Tampa Bay, but the Red Sox and Workman are appealing that decision, so he will make his start tomorrow. Andrew Miller up now in the Boston bullpen. Lonnie at first base with 2 down. Ryan Rayburn awaits the pitch. Another chopper to short. Off balance throw, inning over. 6 in the books. Indians 3, Red Sox 2. Beautiful night here in downtown Cleveland. Look at the skyline. Here at Progressive Field, Tribe and the Red Sox. Cleveland up by a score of 3-2. Our Panini's overstuffed cam providing you the twilight photo of downtown Cleveland. Here's Scott Atchison. He'll be facing the 2, 3, and 4 hitters for the Red Sox. Nick Hagedorn is up getting loose in the Indians bullpen. Hagedorn was just called up by the Indians. Mark Lowe sent down to AAA. So for Atchison, he might be only on to face Bogaerts and Pedroia, and then it could be Hagedorn to face Ortiz. We shall see. Bogaerts 1 for 2 with a home run. He was hit by a pitch his first time up. And then he plugs the gap in left center, and this will be extra bases. Bogaerts into second base. He's got a leadoff double.
Want to try and go inside. They just didn't get it there or in far enough. And this guy plugs the gap in left center field for Bogaerts. His 16th double, so he has doubled now and homered in the ball game.
Well, here's Dustin Pedroia, 1 for 2. Singled in the third. He walked his last time up. Pedroia punches one toward the right field line. Murphy, a long run, can't get it. He does cut it off. Bogaerts coming around third. They're going to wave him home. Chisenhall makes the throw to the plate, and it's offline. Otherwise, I think they might have had him. Bogaerts slides in safely with a tying run, and we got a 3-3 ball game. So Atchison fails to retire a batter. Pedroia picks up his 18th RBI, and now the go-ahead run is in scoring position for Boston.
Well, it's only taken him 3 pitches. And Pedroia is going to try and move him over, but he gets the bonus. Not only that, a base hit. And watch Murphy get the ball in. He gets it to Chisenhall. Now, if Chisenhall comes in and throws it overhand, he threw it sidearm, and it was wide. I mean, that you're only 100 feet away. You got to come and throw something hard over the top.
They're going to intentionally walk Ortiz now with first base open. So with 2 on and nobody out, Johnny Gomes will be the batter. Gomes has singled, walked, and scored a run tonight. Lefty Nick Hagedorn is ready. He could be on to face the left-handed hitting A.J. Pierzynski, who's on deck. John Axford, the right-hander, also getting loose. 3-3 ball game now. Problem, though, is nobody out still in this 7th inning. This is outside. It's 2-0. Cuts and misses. Pops him up on the infield.
Infield fly roll. He'll be out.
That is the call, and there are 1 out now here in the 7th inning. A.J. Pierzynski's coming up, and now we will see Nick Hagedorn, the left-hander. So timeout here at Progressive Field. We now have a tie ball game, 3-3. As promised earlier, it's Miller time, brought to you by Miller Lite.
Beautiful play right there. Well done. Pitched another nice game. Has nothing to show for it now with the runs they've scored in the 6th and the 7th. The Cagadon coming on. He only has he's only faced Brzezinski one other time. Brzezinski 0 for 1. Fly ball out.
Terry Francona said they liked the way that Mark Lowe had been throwing the ball, but he figured the way the Red Sox are situated with all the left-handed hitters, it was a good spot to get Hagedorn into the mix. And so he gets an opportunity now. And a pitch is inside, ball 1. In 18 appearances at Columbus, Hagedorn had a save with a 3.09 ERA. He's averaged 13.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. Left-handed hitters batted just 171 against him. Back out of play. Swung on and missed, and the count was 1-2.
There's the equalizer right there. That breaking ball to the left-handers, good one. And you're going to see that Brzezinski did not have a good swing at that.
Downstairs, he missed 2 balls and 2 strikes. Two on, 1 out, 2-2 pitch. And a curveball hit foul, and it did pick off the third base coach.
Yeah, it got Butterfield right in the foot. It sure did. Yesterday, they got the first base coach in the knee. Today, they get the third base coach, and I mean, that was smoked. It got him.
I think Pedroia is all over him, and Butterfield just keeps saying, don't worry about me. You worry about you. 2-2 pitch. Swing and a miss. He got him to go fish. Second out of the inning. Hagedorn gets a big strikeout for the Indians.
Well, let's look at the sequence now. He's going to start him out with a fastball in for a ball. He goes after the high fastball and fouled it off, and then he threw a good breaking ball. Got him to swing over the top, fastball down, and then he missed. Fouled off the hanging breaking ball, and then he chased one in the dirt. Get it down there. Keep that breaking ball down. So a nice sequence for Hagedorn. He gets the strikeout and out number 2. Now he's got 1 more to go to keep this a tie ball game.
And the pitch upstairs, swung on and missed. Hagedorn, 28 years old, Last month in Columbus, he struck out 22 batters and only walked 3 in his 12 innings of work. Hassan takes it inside. Good breaking ball, but Hassan wouldn't bite. There's a good fastball.
Well, 2-1 count as a hitter. You're figuring the heater's got to come in this situation. He gets a heater down there, and he just took it for a strike. So now Hagedorn a chance to get out of the inning.
Well, with 2 on and 2 out, 2-2 count. Swing and a miss. He strikes him out. Nick Hagedorn is returned to the Tribe. He dazzles them with a couple of strikeouts, and we stay tied at 3. Time now for the 7th inning stretch. Brought to you by Spitzer Auto World. Life is hard. Buying a car shouldn't be. We go to the bottom of the 7th inning. And even with 95 pitches under his belt, John Farrell going to stick with Jay Peavy. Why? Well, because he hasn't really had any stress since the first inning of this game. The Indians have only had 2 base runners since the first inning. And at one point, Peavy had retired 14 in a row before a 2-out single by Lonnie Chisenhall in the 6th. Now David Murphy takes a strike. He's 0 for 2 on the night, as the Indians try to battle their way back to the lead. They led it 3-0 after an inning. The Red Sox have scratched out a tally in the 3rd, 1 in the 6th, and 1 on the 7th to even it up.
Well, Peavy in his last start went 8 innings. He had 111 pitches in that game against Atlanta.
It's low, and the count 3-1.
And he hasn't been behind many hitters in this game. Normally he's been ahead and they've had to fight their way back into a count. But the Indians have to come back and score. They haven't done anything since the first.
.100 pitches on the night for Jake Peavy. A little bit outside, and it's ball 4. The Indians have their leadoff man aboard.
That's his very first walk tonight.
Yeah. John Farrell checks things over as Yan Gomes steps in. Gomes, line one off the glove of Peavy for a base hit in the second inning. Popped up on the infield his last time up.
Well, that was the last base hit. Peavy made a mistake by trying to throw it off his back foot. Remember, it was an infield single. He threw it away, and Gomes went to second.
Mm-hmm.
That was the last opportunity the Indians had a chance to score. Man on third and less than 2 outs. They couldn't get him home, and he has settled in. Only 1 hit since then, and now the leadoff walk is first.
In there for a strike. Peavy wants to go through the signs again with Brzezinski. And a ground ball single into left field for Gomes. So a walk and a knock, and the Indians have something brewing here in the 7th. Nobody out.
Well, Gomes got a pitch to his liking, and he finds that hole between short and third. A little two-seamer. Sinking action, gets it through the hole. So the first 2 men aboard. That is just the 8th hit for the Indians. 5 coming in the first.
Well, Avila's had a sacrifice bunt in the second inning. He flied out to center field in the 5th, but remember, earlier on this homestand, it was Avila's who he broke a tie with an RBI hit. That was in the 8th inning.
Well, this is probably going to be Peavy's last hitter.
And Avila squaring the bunt. I think he bunted it into his body, bunted it into his own rib cage. Avila's trying to get some air in his lungs right now as Andrew Miller gets loose.
Hard throwing left-hander coming out of that bullpen. And the Sox bullpen has been lights out recently.
Brock Holt in at first base. He'll be charging if Avila squares. He does. He bunts it back toward Peavy. Peavy goes to third, and they easily get the out there. And they almost threw it away at first, but Pedroia did a nice job to knock it down.
Boy, did he ever.
So the sacrifice goes awry, and now the Indians have 2 on with 1 out, and Michael Bourne coming up, and we'll get a pitching change.
Well, just a little too hard, and Peavy, he's a competitor. He goes out, and he knows he can make it if a good throw, and they may have a chance for a double play, but Pedroia's over there covering. He did a great job at just knocking it down. Gomes at second thought about going to third, but that ball never got away from Pedroia.
Left-hander. Two bitter rivals step in to coach the UFC's next generation of fighters with a UFC contract on the line. It's the all-new season of The Ultimate Fighter, only on Fox Sports 1 and streaming live on Fox Sports Go. Here is Andrew Miller, the left-hander, on to face Michael Bourne with 2 on and 1 out.
Well, you can see his 28th appearance. He's been used a lot. 2 and 4 at 263. But look at the strikeouts and the walks. 7 walks, 37 strikeouts. And the Red Sox bullpen has been lights out in that streak. They've given up just 1 run in the last 21 and a third innings and just 12 hits. And right now, that's what they're trying to do. Keep those guys on first and second. The Indians trying to get something to take the lead with 1 out here.
In there for a strike. Miller was saddled with 4 losses in the span of 11 games during the month of May. He took losses twice in their series at Minnesota against the Twins. And he lost the first 2 games of their series down in Tampa against the Rays. As Bourne sends one high in the air, deep left field. Gomes was in shallow. It's over his head. It hits near the base of the wall. Coming around third. Gomes is going to score. Aviles on his heels. He scores 2. Michael Bourne delivers once again. A tie-breaking 2-run double off the wall in left field. And the Indians go in front now 5-3.
Boy, Mike Aviles, nice job of base running, just off and running on the crack of the bat, realizing it was going to be over Gomes' head. He got a fastball in and drove it to left field. Michael Bourne, look at, they were cheating in. What a job. Short hops the wall. He smoked that ball. And look where Aviles is. He's in the back pocket of Gomes. As they both come in to score, the Indians take a 5-3 lead. And a big hit for Michael Bourne on Michael Bourne bobblehead night.
You said he'd had to get one.
Yes, he did. It was his night. He had to get a big hit.
Now is Drupal Cabrera 1 for 3 on the night.
He had an opportunity back in the second, but he pays dividends here in the seventh.
Upstairs for ball 1. Cabrera fights it off. It's out of play. Miller came in and gave up a big hit to Bourne as the Indians take the lead. And, of course, those runs are charged to Jake Peavy.
Right. That was the first extra base hit out of their 9 hits, was the double by Bourne, and that came at the right time.
Time call.
Well, Pedroia, you can see he's trying to keep Bourne close at second base. At Bourne, he's trying to get that walk and lead off the left-hander where he can start just take off. But Pedroia really keeping him close. He's staying near the bag.
Upstairs with it.
What it does, it shortens his leg kick and that delivery, and he was upstairs. He was a little high with that pitch. So maybe it is distracting him a little bit.
Well, on this homestand, the Indians have been very good in the clutch. Michael Bourne delivering. As a team, they've batted over 300 with runners in scoring position. And they've held the opposition to an average of just 179. Whoa, the bat goes flying over the dugout. As the count evens at 2-2. And we'll see what Asdrubal wants to do. He probably says, go ahead and keep that one. Had a bad handle on it.
Well, that thing, it got in a hurry. I think everybody's A-OK, but in the front row above the dugout, boy, you had better be paying attention at all times. And the ladies looked like they're going to be fine. That guy came in and scammed the bat. He picked it up and he took off in a hurry.
Might need a little ice down there. A little ice in row 1. Meanwhile, Cabrera trying to deliver and keep it rolling for the Indians here in this 7th inning, in which the Tribe has gone in front 5-3.
Started with the leadoff walk, then a base hit, and then the failed sacrifice. He had a fielder's choice, then a big double by Bourne.
And he got a piece of that to keep himself in this at bat. Terry Francona's crew playing inspired baseball in this homestand. Tonight they scored early, and now they're coming back to score late. Looking for more here, the 2-2. And as Drupal Cabrera continues to stay alive. By the way, since the books closed on Jake Peavy, Rick, that's now, even though innings 2 through 6 were dynamite, all anybody's going to remember is that in 4 of his last 5 starts now, he's given up 5 runs
or more. Yeah, that's true. You give up 3 in the first on 5 singles.
And Cabrera's out looking. 2 down in the inning. Time for a Mazda game break. Back to the studios. Here's Al.
Matt Toronto and Detroit were scoreless tonight into the 9th inning, but then Jose Bautista with runners at first and third delivers this single here off of Nathan. That gets a runner home for the Blue Jays, so they've taken a 1-0 lead in the 9th in Motown. Matt?
All right, thanks, Al. Michael Brantley is 1 for 3 tonight, an RBI single in the first. That's outside for ball 1. Brantley has still managed a very good .286 average against left-handed pitchers this year. Good fastball. Threw it by him. It's 1-1. Andrew Miller was originally the 6th overall pick in the 2006 draft by the Tigers. Brantley couldn't hold up. Made his debut that same year. Imagine that, you get drafted, and in the same year you get drafted, you're in the big leagues. Pitched in 8 games for the Tigers that year. 2 years later, he was traded to the Florida Marlins in that crazy deal that involved Miguel Cabrera and Dontrelle Willis. And after a few years in Florida, he was traded to the Red Sox for a left-handed pitcher by the name of Dustin Richardson.
Who?
Yeah. I mean, this guy went from the 6th overall pick in the draft, but injuries and, not being able to stay healthy, people started to wonder, what's the deal? Boston decided to take a flyer, and he's already been on the DL twice with the Red Sox. Upstairs.
Well, he entered tonight with 14 inherited runners, and none had scored up until the 2 he let in on the double by Michael Bourne.
Cody Allen already getting loose now for the Indians. Could be one of those nights where Terry Francona looking for a multi-inning save. Who knows? The 2-2. He struck him out to end the inning. But Michael Bourne delivers the tie-breaking 2-run double. And the Indians are up 5-3. Cleveland Indians and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form. And the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the Cleveland Indians. Stay tuned for Indians Live, brought to you by Conrad's Tire Express and Total Car Care. It's coming up next. Right now it's Nick Hagedorn against Jackie Bradley Jr., and he takes a strike. You've got Bradley Jr., then the switch-hitting Jonathan Herrera, then the left-handed hitting Brock Holt. So Hagedorn might be on for this entire 8th inning. If he gets into trouble and they get to the right-handed bats, you've got Cody Allen getting ready.
Well, for Hagedorn, just don't, and no free base runners. If they get on, let them hit their way on, or make them hit their way on.
Swing and a miss. Bradley was hit by a pitch in the 6th inning. He singled back in the 2nd, grounded out in between. Checked his swing, 2-2. Ground ball towards second base. Jason Kipnis flips it over, one away. Nick Hagedorn came into a tough situation, Rick. 2 on, 1 out. Game tied, but he got a couple of big strikeouts.
Yes, he did. That was a good breaking ball there, and then he elevated the fastball. So the 2 punch outs kept him going. He's back out. He gets a ground ball out to face his first man. This could be a huge inning if he can get through this one. I mean, very big for that bullpen.
And a fastball in there for a strike, 1-1 to count. Hit in the hole and a base hit. Herrera reaches with 1 out here in the 8th inning. And Brock Holt will be coming up. He's 1 for 4 on the night. Oh, nice breaking ball. Had Holt backing out of the way.
Well, when you're throwing that breaking ball to a left turn on first pitch, you don't put the nasty one. Throw strike one. You know, get me over breaking ball. Those guys are not going to swing at it first pitch. They shouldn't.
He swings at that one and lines it down the right field line, but it is foul.
You know, you get a young hitter up there, they're aggressive. They want the number one. They want the express. They want the fastball.
Well, that's what he got here.
Yeah, and look at it. He turned on it, and this thing doesn't miss by much. That would have been extra bases. I think I know what he's going to see here.
Well, a fastball to the backstop wasn't what we had in mind, but it's nearly what we had.
You have an 0-2 count, and you want to make a good pitch, maybe to set something else up, but that one really didn't set anything up. That was just a wasted pitch there.
Another breaking ball, and it's fouled away. Wind really starting to pick up here as this game has gone along. Hard to tell exactly. It looks like it's blowing straight in from left. It's got those trees moving out beyond center field.
It's changed since the start of the game.
Still very pleasant. Not like it's chilled the evening off or anything. Got him looking. Go. Oh, Hagedorn rings up Holt with a breaking ball, and it's the third strikeout of the night for the left-hander.
Well, he took enough off of it and had enough bite to it. And there you go. You get the call. I don't think Holt liked it, but he got the high breaking ball on strike one. There it is. It gets in the zone. Hagedorn's night is over. He struck out 3. He's going to turn it over to Cody Allen. Good job.
So Hagedorn leaves to the cheers of the crowd, and now Cody Allen wets the cap. He's coming on next. Cody Allen trying to save it for the Indians. They'll have to do it by recording 4 outs tonight. He's on for the 30th time this year. He comes on with 1 on, 2 out in the 8th inning, and Xander Bogaerts will be the batter for Boston. And this guy has been the big basher for the Red Sox so far, Rick.
Well, he has, because last night he took a nice fastball up and away, and you can see he hit it into right center field. That were the 2 runs that Boston had, and he comes back tonight, gets him on the board with a solo home run. Doesn't stop there, ends up leading off and hitting a double in the 7th and coming around to score. So he scored 2, driven in 1, and he has some thunder in that bat. A lot of work over the last week. Thursday and Sunday off, and he's trying to get back after it. He's got 4 outs to go tonight. There you go.
High fly ball, center field. Michael Bourne says, "I've got it." And he does. Cody Allen gets the final out of the 8th inning, and the Indians stay in front 5-3. On top as we go to the bottom of the 8th inning. Remember to stay tuned for Indians Live, brought to you by Conrad's Tire Express and Total Car Care. It's coming up next. Here in the bottom of the 8th, the Red Sox go back to their bullpen. One-time Indian, Craig Breslow, left-hander, will be on for the 19th time this year. He'll be facing 4, 5, and 6 for Cleveland.
Now Breslow, 10 walks in his 18 innings. That's a lot for him normally. He's got very good control. He's going to get to face Kipnis, Chisenhall, and Rayburn.
Kipnis 1 for 3 on the night. Line drive base hit in a left field for Kipnis. And the Tribe has their leadoff man aboard, his second hit of the night. In-game box score brought to you by your Hyundai dealers. It's been an interesting game in that the Indians came out of the gate with 5 straight hits to start the ball game. They would score 3 times in the first, then they were shut down completely by Peavy until the 7th. And then when he left, after he left with the 2 base runners aboard, Michael Bourne with a 2-run double off the left field wall, off left-hander reliever Andrew Miller. And that has accounted for all 5 runs tonight for Cleveland. Now Lonnie Chisenhall. Fouled right back. Lonnie had an RBI single in the first inning. Oh, and 2 the count. Toronto beating Detroit 5-0 in the 9th inning in the Motor City. Lonnie pops one up on the infield right at the third baseman. 1 down. Recapping our keys to the game brought to you by Akron Children's Hospital. TJ House, another solid outing. 5 2/3 innings. He allowed just 2 runs. Struck out 4. Gave up the 6 hits. And the Indians got Peavy before he settled in. But they didn't get much after that until that 7th inning. So how important were those 3 runs in the first? Very. Fouled off by Rayburn.
Well, it shows you in the first 2 games of this series how big it was when you get on the board early and you play from in front. The other team, the Red Sox, have had to play catch up. They did catch up today, but then they were able to add on after that. They did tie it. So that was their MO last year. Get the lead early and let their pitchers go out there and relax a little bit.
Rayburn a swing and a miss. It's 0-2. Way outside with it. Out of play. Right-hander getting loose for Boston. You got a left-handed hitter due next for the Indians, and then back-to-back righties. Kipnis at first with one out. Here in the bottom of the 8th inning, and the Tribe leading by a pair. Hits even at 10 apiece. Red Sox have left 11. The Indians have stranded just 6. Is that right? No, 4.
4, correct.
Runner goes, throw to first. Holtz throw to second, hit Kipnis. And he's got a stolen base. It'll be his 6th of the year.
Yeah, sometimes when you get picked like that, he was going on first movement. You just keep right on going. And you see this Holt is not a first baseman. So his throw was into Kipnis. He came in and he made the step inside the base.
Looked like he did everything right from a footwork standpoint.
It just looked like his throw went right into Kipnis's back, so he will get credit with a stolen base. But it looked like he came to the inside part, made the throw, just caught the back of Kipnis.
Rayburn bangs it on the ground to third. Kipnis is caught in a rundown. Low throw picked by Pedroia. And now Kipnis gets back safely.
Well, Pedroia saved the day on the throw. And he throws it all the way to third base, and Kipnis did a nice job to get all the way back. They had him trapped. He was going to third base. And let's make the throw, and look at that. He spiked it into the ground, and what a great play by Pedroia, but it went all the way, and Breslow's there. And by the time he can get the throw back to him, Kipnis beats the throw back to the base. So that'll leave runners at first and second on a fielder's choice.
More excitement than you see in the average fielder's choice.
Yeah, no kidding.
So 2 on, 1 out. Here's David Murphy. Walked his last time up. He's 0 for 2 on the night. And he takes a strike.
Yeah, could this be Breslow's last hitter?
For much of the year, David Murphy was the best hitter in the American League with runners in scoring position. He's currently 6th, batting in the .364 clip. But at one point this year, he was batting well over 400. Every time runners were in scoring position, he came up. He found a way to get a base hit, whether it was flipping one over the head of an infielder or lining a base hit down the line. He has the 5th best average in the league, batting with 2 strikes. You talked about how good Boston is as a team, batting with 2 strikes. Murphy's been very good at that this year because he'll put anything in play.
Well, Murphy has been. Aviles has been. There's been some guys like tonight that they've done a nice job with 2 strikes.
Well, Aviles is 7th in the league with 2 strikes. So those 2 guys right there among the top 10. Let's see if Murphy can do it again down 0-2 with 2 on and 1 out. And a line drive base hit in the left field. Kipnis coming around third. He'll be stopped, though. Gomes got to it quickly and made a good, strong throw toward home plate.
Believe me, if Sarbaugh could have sent him, he would have. Murphy comes up big, gets a nice hit, and he would have sent him. But Gomes had the ball before Kipnis was even at third base. So there's nothing you could do. Kipnis was hustling. Watch. Gomes has the ball. He's 2 steps away from third base. You can't risk it. There's only 1 out. Even though you have the lead, you got to go for a big inning here and really blow them out now. So they'll have the bases loaded and just one out.
So a timeout here at Progressive Field. New pitcher coming on when we come back. You almost make a bad play, and that's what happened to Jason Kipnis. He wanted so badly.
Well,
he got into a rundown, which was the good part of it, but he almost ran himself into an out.
he made a mistake to start the play, but it worked out because of a bad throw by Bogarts.
And I think those guys they're giving it to him right now.
You know what? They should, because he ended up being safe. He hustled, and it's not an error, but in essence, they get an extra out because he hustled his way to stay on second base, and now they have the bases loaded and just one out. He got himself into a pickle, but he got out of it as well.
All right, here's Jan Gomes to face Burke Badenhop. He's having a pretty good year, as you see there by the numbers. Righty-righty matchup, and it's called a strike. Gomes 2 hits on the night, trying to make it 3 and open this lead up a bit more for the Tribe. Instead, it's a double play ball to short, and the Red Sox are out of the inning. So we'll go to the ninth, 5-3 Cleveland. To go to the ninth inning, Cody Allen going to try to close it out. Last night, Cody Allen was in a save situation, and who was standing in his way? Grady Sizemore. He ends up getting Sizemore with 2 strikes to pop up on the infield to record the save, and afterwards it was a big deal for Cody Allen.
was a kid when he was here at his peak. He was an animal here. And so to be able to get him out for the 27th out was pretty cool in this ballpark. This is his first time back. So that was a pretty cool feeling. There was maybe a little hint right there, like 1-2, where I was like, man, it'd be awesome to strike out Grady Sizemore right here. But, it didn't happen, but an out's an out, especially the 27th out, to get a win right there in a close ball game.
You don't hear enough of how there is an admiration society among baseball players, especially young guys who grow up watching some of these guys, and now they're competing against them.
That's what it's all about. You have an opportunity. Like, I'd love to strike. Well, sure you would, but you know what? I just want the out. It's a safe situation. Totally understand what he's saying. That's great right there.
Now he's got Dustin Pedroia, David Ortiz, and Johnny Gomes standing in his way tonight. And this after he got the final out of the 8th inning to start his quest.
Well, he did that. He got that out on 2 pitches.
Now I'm looking for his 5th save on the year. David Ortiz waiting on deck. Allen deals. In the air, center field, Michael Bourne. He's got it one away. Swung on and missed. He reared back, and at 97 miles an hour, he just threw a fastball by Ortiz. Fastball driven to center field, and there's Michael Bourne coming in. He's got it again. So Cody Allen has faced 3 batters, and all 3 have flied out to center field. And now there are 2 down in the 9th. And look who's coming up. It'll be Grady Sizemore again for the 2nd night in a row. Cody Allen will face a guy that he used to idolize. Sizemore pinch hitting. And takes a breaking ball for strike 1. First pinch hit appearance for Sizemore. That breaking ball hung up.
He will be trying just to get on base and extend the inning. They're up 2, so they need a base runner.
Swing and a miss. He went back to the express. And at 96 miles an hour, Sizemore could not catch up. Cody Allen and the Indians 1 strike away. The 1-2. Swing and a miss. He strikes him out. Gomes to first. And the Indians have won 5 in a row. 8 straight at home. They are within a game of the 500 mark. Now at 29-30 on the year. Cody Allen nails it down with a 1-2-3 9th inning. And the Indians have clinched the series now And it's been impressive how, Rick, when they win the first game of a series, they usually win the series. They're now 8-1, and they have 2 splits when they win the first game of a series.
Well, it was another good game. They jumped out early, same MO as last night. They held on to Boston came back to tie it tonight. But the Indians battled back, put 2 on later, and Allen comes on and gets another save.
His 5th of the year. Let's take a look right now at our KeyBank key play of the game.
Well, you got to go back, and whose night was it? It was Michael Bourne's night. It's his bobblehead. He ended up leading the game off with a hit, scoring, and then a big 2-run double. Mike Aviles hustling all the way from first base. Bourne doing it against the lefty. The only extra base hit they had tonight was Bourne's double, and that is going to be our KeyBank key play of the game, brought to you by KeyBank.
So 5-3 is the final score tonight as the Indians beat the Red Sox for the second night in a row. And we've got some final thoughts coming up next.